Meeting is now reconvened to open session. The board would like to remind the public that this meeting is being audio and video recorded and is also available via live stream. The live stream link can be found on the front page of the RUSD website. Okay, tonight we have Lucas Marquardt from Whitney High School as our student board representative. Welcome, Lucas. Will you please introduce the color guard and lead us in the pledge?
Ladies and gentlemen, please stand for the presentation of the colors by the Rocklin Unified School District's Junior ROTC Color Guard and the Pledge of Allegiance. The commander and U.S. flag bearer for this evening's color guard is Cadet Captain Sophia Burkhalter. The state flag is carried by Cadet Master Sergeant Wyatt Gilmer. The right guard is Cadet Master Sergeant Isaiah Brazuela. The left guard is Cadet Airman Basic Hunter Holm. The alternatives for tonight are Cadet Airman Basic Alexandria Kane. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now moving on to our special recognition 5.1 and presentations portion of the meeting. Chief Dosange, will you introduce our family partners in education recognition tonight?
Good evening, President Huff, trustees, and Superintendent Stock. The Family Partners in Education program is an opportunity for the Rocklin Unified School District to acknowledge and appreciate family engagement and involvement, thereby supporting our students in achieving excellence throughout the school year. Valley View Elementary Principal Kaylee Bray is introducing the Waldy family for tonight's Family Partners in Education recognition.
Thank you, Board of Trustees and Superintendent Stock. I'd like to invite up the Waldy family. You want to come up here for just a moment? Thank you for joining us. Tonight, the Board of Trustees would like to recognize the Waldy family for their influence and impact at Valley View Elementary School. While I'm a newer member of the school team, I did not have to look far to understand why our teachers voted so decisively to honor this family for the Family Partners in Education recognition. Through the historical knowledge shared by our staff, a portrait emerges of a family that has woven itself into the very fabric of our school community. Hans Waldy has been a constant presence in our campus, serving in roles that require both time and a deep commitment to student growth. From his leadership on the site council to his creative contributions as an art docent, Hans has consistently stepped up. Perhaps most impressively, he has served as a science camp chaperone multiple times, braving the elements to ensure our students have that foundational sixth grade experience. Cassie Frank Waldy provides a different yet equally vital kind of support. As a trusted local dentist at Frank Family Dental, her business has been a longtime financial sponsor of our school, ensuring that our programs have the resources they need to survive. The family's dedication to education was exemplified during the complexities of the hybrid school year. They served as a steadfast pillar of support, ensuring their sons were consistently prepared for both synchronous and asynchronous learning. Beyond the classroom, our staff has noted that their communication is always respectful and punctual, highlighting a deep commitment to a collaborative partnership with our teachers. A true legacy of the Waldy family, however, is seen in their sons. Rhett, now an 8th grader at Granite Oaks, is remembered at Valley View as a kind, musical, and responsible student. Holden, currently a 6th grader, continues that legacy daily as a hardworking and respectful leader on our campus. The Waldys embody our school's focus on academic excellence and kindness. They do not just attend our school, they partner with us to make it better. On behalf of the teachers and staff, and board, it is a privilege to recognize Hans, Cassie, Rhett, and Holden tonight. Thank you for all you do for us.
I'll jump up here real quick too. I always love this portion of our meeting because it's so important that we always kick it off with appreciation to the parents that give and serve and help so much behind the scenes. I loved getting to hear some of the additional ways I didn't even know your family was serving. So incredibly kind and generous of you, mom, dad, and kids. We know it takes a toll on the entire family. And so we just thank you for your support of Rocklin Schools, your many, many ways that you go above and beyond, your generosity, and also to be a science camp leader more than once. That means you knew what you were getting yourself into, and yet you came back. So on behalf of the board, we truly want to give our sincere appreciation to you, the entire Waldy family. Thank you so much.
Thank you again. And Chief Dosanjh, will you introduce our employee recognition tonight?
President Hupp, trustees, and Superintendent Stock. Tonight for our employee recognition, Rock Creek Elementary Principal Bevan Glover will join us to introduce Holly Cable.
Good evening, Superintendent Stock and Board of Trustees. It is my absolute privilege this evening to introduce you to Holly Cable, if you don't know her yet. And Rock Creek and the RUSD community at large is quite simply a much better place because of Holly's contributions. Holly is a dedicated Rocklin Unified teacher of 14 years, teaching both first grade and now fourth grade at Rock Creek Elementary. She serves our staff as our current AI ambassador. Holly gobbles up any PD that is thrown her way. It has sparked this really cool initiative across Rocklin Unified. It's a Pay It Forward initiative across our district when our staff work together to provide goodies for both the Springview and the Rucola staff during what is the longest month in education, October. She's passionate about encompassing what it means to teach the whole child. She teaches our kids valuable life lessons in social skills, balance, and service to others. She's led a yoga club for our kids, a walking club, and she's also our current cross-country coach. She pushes our runners to have grit, a growth mindset, and to find a healthy outlet, all while representing Rock Creek. And there's more. In addition, she leads our school each year in a community service project partnering with the Tower of Niceness. Our school has made hygiene kits for the region's unhoused population, and this year our school collected over 200 toys for kids in our greater community experiencing homelessness and hospitalization over the holiday season. And her passion sparked our fourth grade classes to pull together their Red Hawk tickets to purchase toys in our school-wide PBIS store for this cause. Rock Creek would not be the same without Holly Cable. Please join me in congratulating her on her contributions.
In addition, Rocklin Unified would not be the same without Holly. We're so grateful for you. This is personal for me. Don't cry, because then I cry. Holly and I raised our babies together, and you are just so inspiring. I've been to your yoga club, and you do add so much to our district and to Rock Creek and to our community. I don't know if you guys know, but her oldest daughter, Tyler, is a counselor at Rocklin High School, and of course, one of my favorites. And so I reached out to her today, and I said, what are the things that your mom does behind the scenes that no one knows? And what she said back is just so sweet. She said, she is the person that we all go to when we need to talk something out, vent, or just feel understood, no matter when or where. She really takes care of herself mentally and physically, and she encourages everyone else to do the same and live their best life. No matter what's going on, she always finds the good. She checks in on people she loves, shows up when it matters, and genuinely tries every day to be a good mom and a good friend. And I'd add a good teacher. So thank you. We appreciate you.
Okay, now that we're all choked up.
Got the tie on?
Okay, yes, thank you, Mr. Flowers. And, sorry, we will also be recognizing the state champion Whitney High School varsity girls cross country team. Marty Flowers, please introduce them.
President Hupp, Trustee, Superintendent Stock, it is my honor to recognize a truly historic achievement by the Whitney High School girls cross country team. District records confirm, and I'm going to say unofficially, but I've conversed with Mr. Pappas and Mr. Collins, but as many know, we've had high school athletics here for 33 years, and we've had some individual athletes in the areas of swimming and wrestling achieve that status as state champions. But it is our opinion, unofficially, that this is the first ever team state championship, and that was accomplished this year by the 2025 Whitney High School girls cross country team. I do have some additional details I'd like to share. This season marks their fourth consecutive San Joaquin section title, meaning for the seniors on the team, every year they participate in high school athletics, they won a section title. Now, we've had a number of teams win league titles, but section title is very challenging. Over the time, the program has earned 7 league championships, 5 in the highly competitive Sierra Foothill League, and 2 in the former Cal League. And this is not their first taste of the state championship. They took second in 2023. They took third in 2024. And once again, ladies and gentlemen, it's my honor to introduce the 2025 State Girls Cross Country Champions. At this time, I'd like to ask longtime head coach Jerry Dodge, his assistant coaches, and his amazing athletes to please join us up here. I believe President Hupp has some words for them. So, come on up, please.
All right, this is so exciting that I couldn't do it alone. Trustee Counter is going to help me. We all want to be up here doing this because it's amazing, and we are so incredibly proud of you. And I know Trustee Counter has a few things to say. We were very glad to hear that you were honored last night as well by the City Council. That was very exciting. And I'm going to hand it over to Trustee Counter.
So, again, amazing. Love the fact for claws up, right? Got this here. So after all the fun, after all the hard work, after all the dedication, the things you guys do, just remember that your name is forever etched in Whitney High School as state champion. So alumni nights, years from now, you come back, and right now, in that moment, you guys own it. So thank you for that. Great job.
So we have first assistant coach, Hunter Schwab.
Coach Janica Sewell.
David Kopak.
There he is.
Senior athlete, Sophie Hutchinson.
Senior athlete Jane Landon.
Senior athlete, Addie Ewers.
All right. Ava Hearn, senior athlete.
Ed Soto.
Come back next year. All right. Sophomore athlete Kaylee Smith. Come back next year. Let's go.
Sophomore athlete, Izzy Leal.
And ladies and gentlemen, your head coach, Jerry Dodd.
We are going to, our whole board would like to come down and take a picture with you on our Rocklin Unified wall. And then Trustee Sadoff has a surprise for you after that. So if we can all gather over.
Slide up against the wall. Here, we're going to.
We'll go, you guys want to come in and do windows? Oh, sure. Well, yeah, come on in, everybody come in and do windows.
All right. You ready? I'm on your toes. Sorry. Very close. 1, 2, 3.
Okay, wait, everybody's got to do.
Oh my goodness.
How's that, girls?
You too, Bryce.
Okay, wait. Official photo. Official, one more. Just kidding, just kidding.
For the district, guys.
Ready, 1, 2, 3.
And then right here, Trustee Sadoff has something for you.
So sorry.
It's not every day we get to celebrate state champions, and so this is a really big deal. And we want to make sure we recognize all of the hard work that has gone into this. And so, as was said, we know you got recognized at City Council. It's great to see you there. And then it was really important to the board that we recognize you tonight. And then I was able to make a little phone call and make something happen to where the California State Assembly, your Assemblyman Joe Patterson, also wanted to hook you up with some state recognition. So he was so sad he couldn't be here tonight, but asked that I present to you and the entire team recognition from the California Legislature, the State Assembly, recognizing you as the state champions for cross country. So congratulations. So the Assembly has issued a certificate for each one of you to keep, so you can frame that, tell your future families. And then in addition, they've issued one for the entire team that the hope was that coaches, you could keep it in the office. So just as a memorabilia of this great feat. So thank you again for your incredible work. We are always proud to be able to brag on our students, but we know that there was a lot of time, a lot of work that went into this. And so congratulations to you and and to your family that's here celebrating. We know it's really them that many times sacrifice so you can make it to practices, and I'm sure many of them ran alongside you at some point in your running career. So thank you to the families, and thank you to the entire team. Again, Assemblyman Joe Patterson just wanted to send his congratulations.
All right, and to all those who came to support someone who is being recognized tonight, we thank you so much for joining us. And while you're more than welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting, we also know you have busy lives and we want you to be respectful of your time. So now is a good time to hit the road. And thank you again so much. You're all such a wonderful addition to our district. We can pause, Chief Dosanjh. We can pause. Okay, is everybody ready? Wait, we lost. Okay, next we welcome our new CSEA president, Elizabeth Salazar, to present the CSEA report. And Elizabeth, welcome. We're glad you're here.
Thank you. I'm a bag of nerves. Okay, good evening, President Hupp, and trustees and Superintendent Stock. I know I've spoken here a couple of times, but I felt that was like in a substitute position and the hat wasn't really on my head. But I am now feeling the weight and I'm excited and also very nervous. So my name is Liz Salazar. I'm also the Quarry Trail Principal Secretary there. And it's my honor to address you tonight for the first time as a newly elected president of the California School Employee Association, Chapter 773. I would like to also introduce our new executive board that's working with me these next 2 years. We have Valerie Smith is our vice president. She's the principal secretary at Rock Creek. We have Dawn Zick, who's our treasurer, and she's a sped aide at Rucola Elementary, and Emily Buck, our communications officer, a user support technician here in the district office. So one of the things that we really wanted to do is be able to cross as many aisles and many groups as possible with this new executive board so we can really be able to hear the voices of our classified staff. On behalf of all the CSEA members, from our hardworking maintenance crews and custodians and our essential office staff, food service teams, and instructional aides, I want to express our appreciation for the opportunity to partner in this vital work of the district. We firmly believe in the RUSD mission to ensure each student becomes a well-rounded individual who thrives intellectually and develops unique strengths. Our classified staff are like our school family, always there, working diligently behind the scenes to create the warm, safe, and clean environments to help our mission to succeed. Collaboration is a core value of Rocklin Unified, and It is a core value of CSCA. It has been a pleasure to work collaboratively with the district leadership and this board over the past 2 years as vice president and also on the negotiation team. And we hope to continue this productive partnership to benefit all of our classified staff and the students they serve. We've seen positive results from our recent collaborations on important issues like the Me Too clause, summer assistance program, the SPED training stipend, which have been recently negotiated and we were able to come to an agreement. We understand the need for both fiscal responsibility and the continuous improvement of programs that serve our students. As we look ahead to future decisions and negotiations, CSCA is dedicated to finding fiscally sound solutions that recognize the invaluable contributions of our members while aligning with the district's strategic priorities. Our goal is simple: to work together to ensure that every RUSD student has the support they need to succeed. Thank you again for your time, your leadership, and your commitment to our schools. We look forward to a productive, collaborative year. That's all I've got.
Oh, you're wonderful. And trust me, Elizabeth, we all know how you feel.
Thank you. Yes, I'm excited.
Good, we're excited for you. We're
Thank you.
excited to have you.
Thank you so much.
All right, we will now, we don't have anyone here from RTPA, so we'll move on to 7.1, comments from our student board representative. So Lucas, will you please share your report?
Thank you. As we begin the new year, our schools across the district are off to a strong and engaging start, with a focus on kindness, student leadership, academic exploration, and community involvement. Here's a look at what has been happening at our campuses. We'll start at the elementary schools. Quarry Trail Elementary is excited to celebrate Kindness Week from January 26th through the January 30th. This year's theme is Show Us Your Kind. Cobblestone is beginning the new year with practice underway for its annual dance show, along with the start of its second session of intervention support. In addition, the Cobblestone Parent-Teacher Club is collecting gently used books in preparation for a book rummage sale that will take place later in the spring. At Breen Elementary, third grade students are currently learning about animal adaptations and are looking forward to an upcoming field trip to the Nimbus Fish Hatchery to extend their learning beyond the classroom. At Valley View, students recently experienced a Wayne Hoochin assembly that blended science and inquiry, sparking curiosity across all grade levels. The school is also proud of the continued growth in its student council, which is taking on a larger leadership role through weekly announcements and service projects. Sunset Ranch is starting a new year with a parent-teacher club hosted bingo night on January 22nd. This is a free event open to all Coyote families. In addition, Sunset Ranch third graders are leading their Coyotes Care food drive in support of a local organization, Feeding the Foothills, as part of their grade-level service learning project. Rocklin Elementary School is kicking off a new attendance campaign called Positively Present. In addition, the Rocklin Elementary Parent-Teacher Club will host a free family night on January 29th. Moving on to the middle schools, we have Springview Middle School, excited to begin the second semester, welcoming new electives and new routines for students. The school is also looking forward to a leadership-led rally taking place on January 23rd. At Rocklin High School recently celebrated its annual Runaway Week, which included dress-up days, a 3-on-3 basketball tournament, and the Runaway Rally. This upcoming Friday, the school will host its first semi-formal dance of the semester, the Heavenly Dance. Whitney High School is gearing up for their annual course preview days next week, which provides students the opportunity to visit classes in preparation for planning their schedules for next school year. In addition, Whitney High School will soon celebrate its Winter Spirit Week, complete with dress-up days, lunchtime activities, and a winter semi-formal dance. Looking ahead, both of our high schools are excited to hold their annual showcase night for incoming 9th grade students on Monday, February 9th. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Lucas. I love hearing about all the great things that are happening around the district. So 7.2, next we'll have comments from board and superintendent. So trustees, do you have comments you would like to share?
I don't have any comments other than I said to Lucas, it's 2026. That year that you've been thinking about since kindergarten is finally here. And so how fun for our seniors, and just excited to be back. There's always a good energy at the beginning of the year, and I'm just grateful for that.
Great, yes, Lucas, great report. And oh man, I can't believe, just a few months left. Yeah, you ready? No. You still got a lot of fun ahead of you. No rush. Enjoy every moment. Well, thank you for the report. I always love hearing what's happening around our district, on our campuses, so appreciate that. I also just wanted to do just an appreciation since our last board meeting. You know, we have incredible teachers and staff that reopened our schools after a break that was busy for some, relaxing for some. And I love the difference out in the community when you see the students going to and from school and you see them playing out on the parks after school. And so I just wanted to send a sincere thank you out to from the teacher to the bus driver to the nutrition worker, every single individual that made the start of school again this year in the new year a positive one. I've only heard incredibly great things from parents out in the community, and so I want to make sure that that appreciation goes to all of you. So thank you. And then also, I know we got to recognize the students, but I just think it's so great, our collaboration with our city, that the city council would take the time to recognize students as well. I just really appreciate that relationship. And I know Mayor Bass had his first meeting as mayor, and he highlighted how much he appreciated the work of the Rocklin Unified School Board to work with the city council, specifically with our 2x2 meetings, and I always appreciate those. I know we have one coming up, but I wanted to echo that sentiment back. I think it's great when our city and our school board can work together. We can address issues faster, we can respond to residents faster, and we can make better solutions for our entire community. And so speaking of that, I know we have LCAP meetings happening. I have a few parents that have reached out, excitement about that. And so just appreciation to those parents. This is a really good time to be engaging in that work. And I just want to say a special shout out to Hannah Anderson. You, on many occasions, have made yourself available to answer questions, and not only to parents, but to myself as a trustee. I know we'll get to talk about some of that work a little bit later tonight, but I know that's no easy task. And so I just really wanted to take my board of comments to highlight that. I appreciate yet again today. I think we had a close to an hour conversation. And so I just really appreciate the important work of making sure that we are addressing any concerns that we see in our data, and that we make sure every single student has an opportunity for growth in our district. And so I appreciate your great work and also your heart to make sure every student is seen and served. So thank you.
Go and then go? Or however you want to do it. We'll go in the end because we have to finish with Julie. So, real quick, great job. Senior about to graduate, enroll. So hopefully we see you a few more times before you get up on that stage. So that's excellent. Just want to say, myself and Michelle, earlier this week, we were in the safety meeting. It was great to have the conversation, be collaborative, not only with staff, with parents, just to kind of go through all the different activities and things. A quick shout out to Rain. I know that the list is long and way overboard, so he was very good to highlight all the different activities. There's a lot of different things going from window tinting to visitor management to camera systems so I know your team will knock it out of the park and do a great job, but the list was very long, so super appreciate that effort. And then city council recognition, it was nice that, so our girls cross country team was here tonight. They were at city council going through it, so just neat that the city recognized and all of us recognize how cool a state championship is for girls athletes. I mean, that was amazing. And then good to see winter sports and showcase night coming back up, so it should be fun.
Hi, Happy New Year, if I haven't said it to you already. Yeah, I think we covered a lot of ground in that safety meeting. I think it was really great that we spent some time on the e-bike conversation, just answering questions that some of the parents had, making sure that everyone was up to speed on that upcoming change in policy. So that was really great. And then just really all of the highlighting of what this one-time safety funding is doing on the campuses and just how widespread it really can be utilized. And I really appreciate what everyone has done to just be very intentional about that, whether it's, facilities updates with the windows and things, or if it is the technology, because that does make a huge difference. So it was an excellent meeting. Aside from that, I just have a couple of just kind of PSAs. There is the 8th annual Placer MLK Day Celebration March coming up on Monday the 19th, 8:30 a.m., Johnson Springview Park. It's always a very positive, well-attended event. There's usually at least a couple of us there and other city leaders, so hope to see some people out there. And then we also, with the City of Rocklin Community Recognition Commission, which I serve on, we are currently collecting nominations for our Rucola Community Service Awards. So there are several different categories. If you go to the website, more information is always great. We're hoping to get a really great response volume so we can really see what people in our community are doing to help. So the deadline for that is Sunday, February 8th. So I have a couple weeks to think about it. That's all I have.
All right, some wonderful things have been said. I don't have much to add except just to maybe echo what Trustee Sadoff said about being really grateful for all the schools opening back up so successfully, all the hard work that went into preparing the schools so that they would be ready for the second half of the year, and all of the staff. And the one body of staff that we hardly ever mention, I would like to throw in thank you to the admin who are helping to get their campuses ready and helping to make sure their classrooms and their teachers and everything is ready to start. I know they're always the behind-the-scenes people who rarely get recognized, and I know our teachers are working so hard, and now is the push to make sure everybody's ready for state testing and for graduation and for all of the end of the year activities. We're not talking about end of the year yet, though. We're just getting close to the push for that. But we're just really appreciative for all those who are working so hard to make it wonderful for our kids. And then we will move on to superintendent comments.
Thank you, President Hupp. So just a few things to add, and just again, the thanks to all of our schools. We had a lot of rain and wind over the break, and we had all of our schools open because we have grounds and custodial and maintenance crews out there making sure they're ready. So we appreciate that while many of us are warm and dry, they are out there making sure things are ready to roll. And we came back in on that first day in January and things in good shape. So we appreciate that as well. Just a couple things. We are excited about TKK Parent Information Night. For some of us, that was a while ago, but we are beginning our registration on January 20th, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week online. You can register your child, or if you don't have one but you know one, tell their parents. But we are very excited to welcome in the new students to our next school year. As well. And then just on the e-bikes, you will start to see all kinds of information, sandwich board signs courtesy of Rocklin PD at our schools, other signs out, really wanting our family and community to understand the policy changes that was mentioned around the types of transportation you can store and operate on our campuses, which is only regular bicycles and Class 1 e-bikes. So we hope the message gets out, and we have seen some lower use of some of those already based on just that information. So we are grateful for that. And again, our registration opens 24 hours a day, January 20th.
All right, thank you everyone so much. And we will move on to item 8, action items consent calendar. All matters listed under the consent calendar are to be considered routine and will be enacted by one motion followed by a roll call vote. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless the Board of Trustees requests specific items to be removed from the consent calendar. For separate discussion and action, any items removed will be voted upon following the motion to approve the consent calendar. Does any trustee wish to remove any item from the consent calendar for separate discussion and action? Okay. Then is there a motion to approve the consent agenda? Consent calendar, sorry.
So moved.
First by trustee Sutherland,
Second.
second by trustee Price. Georgia, will you please call the roll?
Lucas Marcourt,
Yes.
Rochelle Price,
Yes.
Tiffany Sadoff,
Yes.
Michelle Sutherland,
Yes.
Derek Counter,
Yes.
Julie Hupp.
Yes, motion passes. Okay, moving on to item 9 and 9.1. We now invite Jennifer Stahlheber, Deputy Superintendent of Business Services, to present item 9.1, action on a resolution approving Rocklin Teachers Professional Association Early Retirement Plan Agreement for 25-26.
Good evening, President Hupp, trustees, Superintendent Stock, and the public joining us. Tonight, we're bringing this resolution. In October of 2025, the Rocklin Unified School District presented an early retirement plan agreement for the 25-26 school year to the Rocklin Teachers Professional Association. The intent of the offer was to assist the district in addressing the need to right-size staffing with the current and projected loss of student enrollment and minimize any employee layoffs associated with the need to adjust staffing. So we just ask that you take action on this resolution.
All right, thank you. Are there any board comments or questions? No public comment? Okay. Is there a motion to approve a resolution approving Rocklin Teachers Professional Association Early Retirement Plan Agreement for 25-26?
So moved.
Okay, first by trustee Sadoff,
Second.
second by trustee Counter. Georgia, will you please call the roll?
Lucas Marcourt,
Abstained.
Rochelle Price,
Yes.
Tiffany Sadoff,
Yes.
Michelle Sutherland,
Yes.
Derek Counter,
Yes.
Julie Hupp.
Yes, motion passes. Okay, moving on to 9.2. Thank you, Jennifer. Next, we have Hannah Anderson, for a while, Director of Innovation, School Programs and Accountability, to present item 9.2, action on the school plans for student achievement for 25-26 school year and school accountability report cards for the 24-25 school year.
Good evening, President Hupp, members of the board, Superintendent Stock. The school accountability report cards and Title I school plans for student achievement have been updated for the 25-26 school year. On an annual basis, each Title I school's site council is required to submit the school plan for student achievement to the board for approval. School accountability report cards are compiled annually with input from school sites and district office departments, including business, facilities, human resources, and ed services. However, much of the school accountability report card data is now pre-populated by the California Department of Education through the data that we report to them annually. At this time, I'm happy to answer any questions trustees may have and recommend action on the 24-25 school accountability report cards and the 25-26 school plans for student achievement.
Thank you, Hannah. Questions?
I had a couple thoughts. One, appreciation. I know pulling all these reports together, that is no easy feat, so that is quite a bit of information. And I really appreciate, too, this being on an action item as well. I know oftentimes in the past we've had these just because they're standard every year on our consent agenda, but I really think this is an important opportunity to highlight for parents that these are important documents for their campuses. There's a lot of great information on these, but I also think it's a good touch point for us to have good conversation if there's something that catches our eye. And so there were just a couple things that I thought, would be good to just, maybe highlight or talk about for a minute. In looking through a lot of these, I noticed there were some schools that have seen some great growth in some areas. And then there were some other schools that maybe saw growth in other areas. So when we see campuses throughout our district having growth in differing areas, what ways, or do we have ways that they can really learn from each other, or they can share their successes and what they found to be beneficial? Maybe it's best practices. Do we have a forum for that?
Absolutely. Annually, our education services leaders go and collaborate with each of our principals. Our principals are primarily responsible for the school plans for student achievement and their sections in the school accountability report cards. They are working with their leadership teams and their school site councils to develop and implement their plan. Our education services leaders go and meet with them annually to take a deep dive into their student achievement data and other indicators they're looking at in each of their plans. We're meeting with them to talk about what do they see are the strengths in their data, where are they seeing continued growth. We're looking at yearly growth. We're also looking at cohort growth. Students that are in 6th grade, how have they been doing while they've been at your school? And if we're seeing schools where we are not seeing progress for 1 year is not a pattern, but it is a different conversation that we're having at those schools than schools that are seeing repeated growth. If we have schools that are seeing 2 years, 2 years starting to make a pattern. And so then we're having different conversations about how can the district office support you, and what ways do you need education services to come in and help facilitate maybe a training during a staff meeting, or what are the goals that you're working on and how can we better support you in these areas. When we do have schools that are seeing 3 or more years of not making growth, we are having different conversations with those site leaders and helping support them in, okay, what are some new implementation that we need to be trying? Now, we can't, what are some ways that we want to analyze data differently and engage grade levels, and also having goals and setting goals around their student achievement data. That's one way that education services supports. Specific to how principals collaborate with each other, our principals are incredibly collaborative and do this naturally without being prompted. However, through a prompting process, they do also come together monthly and meet in an education service or an elementary leadership team and a secondary leadership team, as well as a combined meeting once a month. At these meetings spread throughout the year, as different data that's in these plans comes in, we carve out times in those meetings to dive into their data, collaborate with each other, talk about their programs, talk about their practices, and share with each other the practices that are effective throughout the district.
Great. I know we had an opportunity to kind of dive a little deep and talk about that, but I think it's great for parents to know that, to know there really is clearly a really strong strategy in place, and that there's an understanding, right? When we see, there might be one grade group, or there could be a variety of reasons why something might be an anomaly for a year, but I really appreciate the work of the entire team to really say, okay, but we really want to look back. What trends are we seeing with each of our grades? What growth are we seeing with them as individuals? And so I appreciated that, of the 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, okay, what are our goals? And then how do we share with each other too? Because I think we're seeing so many successes on our campuses. The more that we can share those between the campuses, I just think it'll benefit the teachers and the students. So thank you for that. There was one other, I know I got to chat with you briefly about it a little bit, but I do want to highlight, when I'm looking at these SARCs, the School Accountability Report cards, there's lots of information on those, right? And this is one snapshot in time. I recognize this is just a kind of like a camera photo taken at one moment, and many of these things might have already been addressed. But if it caught my eye, it might catch other people's eyes as well. And so I did notice there were multiple campuses that when you looked at some of the interior surfaces of our campuses, they had some concerns with things like ceiling tiles, or it really, what I would look at is kind of maintenance request. Do we have a plan of action to have those addressed, or have they already been addressed? Just when I see something like that show up on a report, I want to make sure I comment on it, and so that way we know that we're addressing the concerns being presented there.
Absolutely. I'm going to invite our interim senior director of facilities operations to answer that for you. Raina.
Great. Thank you.
Perfect. Hello. Thanks for asking that question. So yes, what happens when FIT comes through and does the Williams Act inspections is it immediately triggers what we do is it goes into our work order system. If it's a ceiling tile issue, then clearly we fix the roof before we fix that ceiling tile. So, but really what we do is we go through that report, systematically goes into our work order system, and then it is a snapshot, you're right. And then we make sure that everything is taken care of.
Okay, great. Thank you. I just, as a trustee seeing that, I want to make sure that those things are getting addressed and we don't need to take an extra step there or that there's not approval that we're waiting on. So that's great to hear because I did get a chance to go through all of them. And so, I know many of them, that we're not talking safety violations for those listening in. However, I do think, I want to make sure every student has a classroom environment that is not only safe and adequate, but comfortable for them as well. So thank you for prioritizing that.
Well, and some of these are cosmetic, but still that matters. That matters. And so that's very low hanging fruit, quickly addressed. Okay.
So thank you for all this. I know I think, what was it, 24, 25 pages each one, so hopefully you're not typing all that, and a lot of it's copy and paste, so, oh my goodness.
Thank you to the state for some templates. That's
And
a
I hope,
rare
and I
thank
hope
you.
wherever these go, someone's reading all of them and doing detailed analysis. But for the school plan student achievements, I know we do, I think it's Antelope Creek, Rocklin Elementary, Springview, and Victory. Most of them, I think all of them had a incremental improvement in either math or English, and roughly about 3%. So the time frame on that is the expectation that we'll see a 3% jump in math in a year. Yes, no?
The expectation is outlined in each one of their plans. So each school sets different goals based on their context. All of them have goals that are aligned to our district goals. So every site has to have a goal that aligns to our math goal. All of the sites have, for example, an attendance goal because that's a goal of the district and one that the trustees have identified in our LCAP. So the way each individual site tracks their and the specific identifier they're looking at to increase, whether it's 1% or 3%, many of them have selected a 3%. So you're hitting the nail on the head there. Many have selected 3%, but that's identified in the metrics right below each goal area. So you'll see goal 1 in a plan, and then the metrics that they're tracking specific to look at that goal are in their LCAP. All that data right at the beginning is how they're looking collectively at the beginning of each school year to say, and the end of each school year, it's an ongoing process, but what are the areas we should focus on? Then within each goal, there's a specific metric tied, and it is typically around 3%.
And then I know we did this with math and the others, continuous improvement, PDCA, just that general process. We'll go through those same intervals. Love to see the improvements and things noted, and not that I want the whole report done, but it'd be neat to see or follow the progress as the schools go through that, because I think that's just a great thing. I mean, if I'm a school and I'm looking to make a 3% bump in math, that's a great thing. We did some great work. Just love to keep that trend going. So
Absolutely, and there is that right-hand column that each spring they do have to complete to say, okay, what were our goals? Did we accomplish our goals? Those are then reviewed with their site council to set their new goals. So that is a regular ongoing piece. They don't report those in these plans. That is happening, and those are part of the data conversations we're having with each school.
okay, great to hear.
Any other questions?
I think that was a lot of good information in kind of explaining the trend, and if you see a trend over 3 years, that would trigger more intervention, maybe in conversations and strategies. Is there anything, just as I was looking through the different sites, like say within a given school year, if there are discrepancies kind of in achievement in a same year across sites, do you look at anything like that where it may be there's a threshold of what you would expect some variability to be, and then if it exceeded that would be something you look at?
Absolutely. Dr. McDonald, do you want to actually speak to an example of what that looked like this year with science, where you saw some variability in performance and how you went about addressing that? I think that would be a great opportunity to share what that looked like.
Yeah, so when these are end of the year summative assessments that we're looking at with CASP. So often we're looking at that data and then putting an action plan for the following year, which is what you're seeing now. But we also have assessments that happen throughout the year, local assessments and also district assessments like MAP that we use. So we can compare, beginning of the year data to mid-year data, and we can identify pretty quickly if we're seeing not growth or not the growth we would expected between sites. So we look at that data 3 times a year and we're able to monitor and make adjustments. And as Ms. Anderson shared, we have a variety of means of going out, meeting with principals. We have coaches who can come out and work with teachers in grade levels. We have program specialists who do specialized work with teams. So all that helps support in that area. Science is a good example. This year we had identified that we saw science scores dropping. So we wanted to address that. We didn't want to wait a year and have to address that and find out what happened. So we were able to pull together a work group of science teachers who were highly successful. So we had about 12 teachers in that group who were achieving above average in science with their students in 5th grade. We listened to them, like, what are you doing? What's working? How do you like the new curriculum? What are the things that are challenging? You know, what should we tell their teachers? We took that data, we shared it out with other teachers, and now we have 2 days of professional development this month, actually, that is targeting those exact areas that they identified. So using the online tool, preparing for CAST, and also a writing component. Writing's really important in science now, and students may not be prepared for that rigorous writing piece. And then we'll do a follow-up again with those same teachers in April. So we are able to adjust kind of mid-year and make adjustments so we can address issues in a timely manner.
Thank you. That's great to hear kind of those more kind of timely interventions that can happen. You're not waiting for that whole year to then see that. I think I have some others, but I think it may be addressed in the next item, so I'll hold off.
Okay, so is there a motion to approve the school plan for student achievement for 25-26 school year and school accountability report card for the 24-25 school year?
So moved.
First by Trustee Price.
Second.
Second by Trustee Sutherland. Georgia, will you please call the roll?
Lucas Marquardt,
Yes.
Rochelle Price,
Yes.
Tiffany Sadoff,
Yes.
Michelle Sutherland,
Yes.
Derek Counter,
Yes.
Julie Hupp.
Yes, motion passes. Thank you. And Hannah, we'll ask you to continue with information on the 25 California dashboard and attendance improvement.
Okay, gosh, I thought I had this all ready to go. Flip to the wrong page here. All right, good evening. Here tonight to present the 2025 California Dashboard Update. During the presentation this evening, we'll share an overview of the dashboard and information that can be found on the California dashboard for the Rocklin Unified School District, identify RUSD performance, analyze our performance results, including student group performance and change over time, and share an attendance improvement update as well as an update on our Learning Communities for School Success Program, LCSSP grant, and provide next steps. As a reminder, the overarching purpose of the dashboard is to identify, for all districts across the state of California, to identify strengths, weaknesses, and areas for improvement. It reports data for all student groups to ensure that each student group is provided the attention they deserve and need. It promotes continuous improvement across the state, and it communicates results to all of our educational partners. So making sure that parents have a clear way of understanding achievement at schools, school staff understand achievement, administrators, district office staff, and trustees throughout the state. In the release of the 2025 dashboard, there was a few new items. All indicators had a performance level. That's the second bullet point here. Performance levels for science and long-term English learners were added. Also, it's the way that the state identifies districts and schools for various levels of state and county support. It was released earlier this year than in past years. So historically, the dashboards come out in December. This year, it needed to be released by the middle of November. And every year starting in 2026, it will come out in October. This is primarily looking at data that is from the prior school year. And so it's important that we don't get it halfway through the next school year. So all of us are eager to be able to receive it earlier in the year. We're giving them all of the data, the state, all of the data that's in the dashboard. The latest they receive some of it is the end of June. So it's nice to know that it will come out earlier in the future. Data must be used to inform our LCAP. Red indicators have to be included in the LCAP. Schools are also encouraged to use data. That's the state's guidance, encouraged. Our school district requires for schools to use their dashboard data in their school plans for student achievement and safety plans. The next several slides dive into each dashboard indicator. RUSD remains green in the green performance level for English language arts, on average 33.2 points above standard, and we maintained progress. There was 10 student groups that increased or maintained, and we saw 5 of 11 numerically significant student groups in the green indicator for the on the 25 dashboard. We also saw 1 student group, long-term English learners, in the red. I'll speak about them when we talk about the LP, the English Learner Progress Indicator, in a few minutes, because they actually have had really significant progress, and this indicator is not a reflection of their progress. On the math indicator, this indicator, we believe, shows long-time sustained commitment to math improvement, and we are grateful for the board's commitment here in this area, and this dashboard indicator highlights this, with 7 of 11 numerically significant student groups in the green performance band, very few in the yellow through red performance band. RUSD does remain in the green performance level in math, on average with 19.7 points above standard and maintained progress.
Is there an overall score for math and English?
The overall score is what you see in that RUSD progress box on each slide, the upper left. That 19.7 points above is the average distance from standard for students in Rocklin Unified. So it's a complicated mechanism to get here. I'll do my best to give you how the state comes up with it. They look at each individual student who took the CASP test. So all of these state indicators that are related to academics are based on that one CASP SBAC measure. So every student who took that test, they get a scaled score. And that scaled score number has a certain amount of points that says that standard met, or you've met the standards for this grade level. Whatever that number difference is between standards met to that student's score, that's their distance from standard. So you might be 20 points above, you might be 30 points below. So each individual student gets a distance from standard. Then you add up all those distance from standard for all of the students who take this test, and you divide it by the number of students who took the test, and you get on average. So on average, we are 19.7 points above standard for students in our district. I know. Attachment 1 does have the very last link on attachment 1, gives a graphical representation of that way they get to that distance from standard. It's their way of giving you a, yes, we are above, on average in students meeting or exceeding standards. We like this better than that way back when number where they just said, you're a 831, but it's very complex and, a lot in there. But knowing that we're in the green, knowing that we're maintaining progress, actually making growth, it's just they put that 2.2 increase in the maintained bucket, but that's better than we did last year.
Does that number change every year?
The 19.7 above?
No, the determination of the score that makes you at standard.
No, for mathematics, that number does not change every year. So those scaled scores, that distance from standard, that all stays the same.
And if I could say too, I appreciate that these slides show the RUSD rate, which is that you're talking about essentially for those student groups. If overall the average is 19.7 points above, we then are able to break it down into the student groups and see, okay, where did each student group fall that got us to that 19.7? But for parents or anyone listening, I think it was really helpful to be able to see that next column, though, change as well. And so could you speak a little bit to that about how that's the difference of previous year?
Yes. So the second column you see there, that change column, is looking at, actually, I'm going to start with the left column. That first column is saying this is the rate for each student group. So their average distance from standard, right? So you can compare and say, Our Asian students are 68.2 on average points above standard. That's above our district average of 19.7, right? Our socioeconomically disadvantaged students are 21 points below on average. So there's a gap, right? And we know that as part of our goal and something we're working towards and making sure we identify those students for intervention services and the correct courses in secondary programs as well. So the second column is actually looking at the change from the 2024 dashboard to the 25 dashboard. So how did those students perform on average? The difference of those 2 years is represented in the change column. So if you see negative 0.58, that means they decreased on average from the 24 school year to the 25 school year, versus, I'll come back to our socioeconomically disadvantaged students, increased in performance. So although we still have a gap, we are working to close that gap, and you can see that in the increase of 5.3 points.
But that's critical data for us to see and understand, right? Because we don't want to just look at the snapshot in time right now. We want to look at, okay, are we closing these gaps? Are we moving the needle? Are we moving the needle the right way? And so I really appreciate being able to break it down into that data. And I also understand, though, some of these groups, the far right column, are maybe not large groups. So those averages are skewed much easier when it's a smaller group. If it's okay while we're asking questions, I did have a question. I know we got to chat about it a little bit, but if you look on these slides, like this one, I believe, shows 11 student groups. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, 11 student groups. But yet, if we look in the lower left-hand corner of it, it says student group stats, which is kind of like just the change of the last years. It mentions 5 increased, 5 maintained, 5 declined. That's 15 student groups. And so I know we got to talk about, okay, where's the 4 that aren't showing on here? Would you clarify that for the public listening in?
Absolutely. So there are some student groups that either don't have a performance level because of the way the dashboard is made, or they have a small number of students in that student group, and so they might have a rate and they might have change, but they don't have a performance level. So an example of that is our foster youth students, right? In this case, they are part of our student group stats. So they are on the left, and they are actually in the maintained. They're one of our 5 maintained. This student group has 15 students in it. And last year they had 11 students in that student group. So they won't generate a color on the dashboard unless you have a certain number. For foster youth, you need to have 15 students in both school years. They had 11 last year, 15 this year. Because it's not 15 in both years, they won't get a color. So there's a few other examples of that that we could go over, and those were also included, as I had the opportunity to talk through earlier, those were included in the dashboard analysis report shared with trustees, and we can certainly dive into that more as well.
Colleagues, one idea I threw out just to maybe think about or look at for future years is maybe still including, keeping all 15 groups included on there, but maybe they're grayed out or whited out if they, for some reason, didn't have the size or didn't have a color coordination from the state. Because what I really appreciate about these slides is, as a trustee, I'm using these slides and then I'm going to compare them when we look at our LCAP action plans, right? And so it helps me to be able to see a quick snapshot of, okay, are we closing some of those gaps? Are we continuing to see a decline? Are we seeing an increase? And so even if they aren't given on the California school dashboard maybe a mathematics indicator color because they were too small of a group, I threw out a suggestion of it still being maybe easily seen, just so that way we're not having to dig for the data. I do appreciate that it was in the attachments to dig through, but I just think it's really, it could be helpful for us to be able to see and celebrate some of these groups that are smaller, they maintained or they did increase, but the state just doesn't recognize that work.
I love that idea. That's great.
And then the data that's on here, this is all like CAST data. So this is elementary school, 5th grade, junior high, 8th grade, and 11th graders, right? That's that.
Yes, this one is all, because for math, this includes all 3rd through 8th graders
Okay.
and 11th graders.
And
And
that's
just CASP.
just guess. And those scales are, was it exceeds, met, nearly met, and then not met, right?
Yeah, approaching.
Yeah, so fair.
You got it.
Is, as opposed to above or below, is there a way, if we're talking about editing, can we just, is there an overall average? Like at the end of the day, we're looking at math or science or English, like looking at all the different grade levels and all the different things. You put all the met and nearly met, or like, I know we do the color bars. Is there just a way to just, hey, overall, how is Rocklin doing? And if you want to get into elementary and middle, we can do that, but.
So we would say, in this case, overall, we are above average in the green.
Okay, above average above the state average?
Above
or above
average
where we
in-
were last year?
Above average in the number of students meeting the standards.
Comparing it to ourselves last year or comparing ourselves to the state average?
Comparing it to it's not the state average, comparing it to the standards.
But that's still yeah, so.
However, in the upper left-hand box where it says maintain 2.2, that's comparing it to ourselves the previous year.
Yes.
And that change is comparing it to ourselves in the previous year. And the way that you get a color is if you have a high rate, like even though Filipino declined, it's so high that they get to be green. If you have a lot of increase, I think it's above 5 or something, you get to move up a color. So this is where African Americans 23.7 below, but they had 21.7 increase, so they get to be green. So you can either by the level or the rate of change go up or down on the color bar if it wasn't confusing enough already.
That was my question about the
Indicator has a
Hispanic
different
line.
one.
Yeah. Okay.
That helped a lot.
That now,
Thank
because
you.
I was unsure why Hispanic would be below when the number is smaller. And then, so that one is maintained 2.2, but then for science, we're at 2.0, but that is considered increase.
Yes, so if you want to make it even more complicated, each state indicator is looking at different measures. So academically, math and ELA, English Language Arts, are the most similar in the way that this dashboard is developed. So the 2 slides we've been through, those are the most similar. Science, this is the first year. We okay to?
And trustees, this was the state's attempt to make it easy for families in the community to track the progress of their local schools and school districts. Not working so well.
Yeah. Thank you to the
And
state.
this is actually a different graphic representation than what is given online in an effort to try to show top to bottom, how are our student groups performing, and then that bumper sticker, here's how we're doing. So we'll keep refining. We can do that. So the science indicator, this is the first year that the science indicator has been in color. So we know, we looked at our CASP data earlier this year and we said science is an area where we're looking at and saying we need to make some growth, some change. We're not seeing our science scores be where they want to be. The way that the state chose to color code this indicator shows us being in a higher performance area. And so that is the way they did the distance from standard. And it isn't something this is an area where we wouldn't want to look at this and say, well, we're green, we have no work to do. We definitely have work to do in the area of science. As you heard Dr. McDonald share earlier, that's why I use that example. This is, a great example of a place we don't just want to rely on this one state indicator, and we want to say there's work that we can do and are starting to do in the area of science.
And is the number of students, is that just smaller because it's the first year and some of the grades haven't taken it yet, or?
Great question. This is because that science test is only taken 3 times during your academic career.
Okay.
5th grade, 8th grade, and then whether you take it in 11th or 12th grade can vary. So, but you just take it 1 time in high school.
But it is showing data that shows that we are overall doing really well above the standards, correct?
Yes, it is. That is also an indicator to say overall across the state of California, students are not doing well in science. And so the way they chose to color code this indicator was to make sure that statistically, more districts looked like they were doing well. I anticipate that as this indicator grows up, as it gets more years, they will change over time the way that we color code this. So we won't put too much stock in the color coding here, but what we can do is know that we have work to do in the area of science. We did grow from one year to the next. We do have 11 student groups that maintained their progress or increased. We want to see a big jump across all of those student groups in their performance, that 1 year rate.
But trustees, like there are other measures, such as example, advanced placement exams that we do look at. And if you think about kind of like end of system measures, like our students in physics, biology, chemistry, others have done extremely well on their advanced placement exams, and those are college like level finals. So while this indicator shows what it does, we know we have other measures that are nationally normed that show students doing outstanding achievement in science thanks to the work of them and their teachers. So we will bring data like that back to you later in this year, but there are multiple ways we do, like for example, look at science as well.
This next slide looks different. This is reporting the English language progress, or the English learner progress indicator. So the past 3 slides have been on CASP, either the English language arts, math, or science test. This is a test that is only given to English learner students, and it is testing their English learner proficiency. So any year you're categorized or identified as an English learner student, meaning you haven't reclassified as a student who is fluent in English. So any year you are an English learner student, you are required by the state of California to have this assessment. It is a rigorous assessment that tests English language development. It includes multiple components, including a listening and speaking component that students are given this assessment in. Some of it is in a small group, others of it is entirely done one-on-one. In this assessment, and you're seeing multiple years here, you can see that our English learner progress increased by 6.8% from last year to this year. That 64.1% of our English learner students are making progress on their English language development. And that is shown by how they are scoring on that test that they take that's testing their English language proficiency. So you can see that the very far right-hand column, students who progressed at least one language level, 64% of our English learners progressed one language level. What's wonderful to show in this indicator is that we have more students than ever in our English learner population here in Rocklin Unified. Typically, when you get an influx of students, you don't continue to see increased growth, that the program is able to support all of those needs. This is a huge shout out to our English learner students, our teachers of English learners, and our coordinator, Sarah Sories, overseeing our ELD program.
Yeah, this looks amazing. Can I ask a question? Does that include the long-term English learners?
This does.
Okay. And then, sorry, not to go back, in the previous where it says English learner includes current, and is that the like redesignated, or what is the REC?
Yes, so on these indicators, I'm glad you asked this question. This includes current English learner students and reclassified English learner students on all these indicators. This one is just looking at current English learner students, not reclassified students.
Is there a point when the reclassified are no longer counted under English learner? Is that always, if they were ESL,
if they were an
then
English learner, they stay in English. They stay a reclassified learner in the state accountability
and are
system.
kind of categorized differently? Okay.
And we are actually required, as the state of California, or each school district is required to continue to track their progress after they reclassify and support them again if they aren't continuing to make progress. our English, some of the previous slides didn't show, because those groups don't have a color, so I love the idea of adding them in future years. Our reclassified English learner students outperform our English-only students on our English Language Arts state assessment. And they have year over year over year over year. It's quite incredible. Multilingualism is a benefit, as shown by that. So our English learner, long-term English learner students on this exam are also performing in the green. So although on our state measures, to say the math measure and the language arts measure, they are in the red, the state has actually said we aren't even looking at those measures for accountability purposes. They're looking at this measure. Are you making progress in your English language proficiency? And our students, our English learner, long-term English learner students scored in the green this year. Very exciting. Should have put that on the slide. Okay, for suspension rate, RUSD is in the yellow performance area for suspension rate with 2.6% of students being suspended. This indicator includes the most number of students in the denominator, in the N size, because it's any student who has attended Rocklin Unified Schools at any time during the school year is included in this. So you'll see a lot higher numbers in the student group numbers here. And RUSD has maintained this suspension rate and actually saw 9 groups decline or maintain this year and 6 groups increase. We did have a 2 new student groups fall into the into the red this school year, and an area for watching is our foster youth students and our African American students. We know that the small N size for those students does play into their color assigned on the dashboard. However, their disproportionate rates of suspension are ongoing areas that we're looking at. What were the reasons for suspension? In many areas, it is physical fights and substance-related suspensions. And so we are taking a deep dive. Mr. Flowers and I have had a lot of conversations about this, and we'll be taking this to secondary leadership team, as that's where most of these suspensions occur. But those are the primary rates for suspensions for the groups in the red. All right, moving on to the graduation rate. A cause for celebration. RUSD maintains the highest graduation rate in the region with 97.5% of our students reaching graduation, and we are in Rocklin Unified setting students up for better outcomes for the rest of their life with that high school diploma, so that's very exciting. We do have 8 out of 11 student groups that increased or maintained their status. Rocklin Unified maintained overall, but almost increased by 1%. From the 24-25 school year to from the 24 graduating class to the 25 graduating class. This number each year also includes any students who did need a 5th year to graduate. So this is a combined rate that includes 4-year graduates or 5th-year graduates. I want to identify a few things about the students that are in the yellow and the orange here. If you recall, last year in the 24 dashboard, every student group was in the green or the blue, and that was a huge cause for celebration, that our end of system outcome was resulting in no gaps for student groups. This year we did see these gaps, and I wanted to identify that we have looked into these gaps, and that in all of these cases we actually had more English learners graduate in 25 than we did in 24. More homeless youth graduate in 25 than we did in 24. Percentage-wise, we would have seen a difference if 1 or 2 more students we would have hit in these student groups. They would have been in the green. So this is something that shows that those individual attentions paid to these student group progress and ensuring that what are we doing to meet our student group students' needs, regardless of the size of their student group, is incredibly important. All right, our second to last indicator, college and career indicator. You see that 73.6% of Rocklin Unified students are prepared. We are overall in the blue, which is the very high status, as a very high is what the blue is called when in the college and career indicator. I want to identify that this is 22% above the state average in this area. So Rocklin Unified is well above the state average and maintained from the 24 school year to the 25 school year. There are 11 indicators or ways you could be college or career ready. At the February 4th mid-year LCAP update, I will be giving a lot more information about the college career indicator as we take a deep dive into multiple student groups. However, in this area, I want to identify that we do see, although overall we are doing very well, we do have some student groups where we have identified that we want to make change. There are significant gaps for 5 of 9 student groups with many or 2 student groups falling in the orange.
Real quick on that, can I be college and career prepared but not graduate? Because our graduation rate is like 98%, which is amazing. It's just interesting that I can be 74% prepared, but like, why is there so much? Yeah, why can I graduate and not be college and career prepared?
So our graduation rate is related to students meeting our graduation requirements. So they have reached enough credits in all of the identified areas of our for graduation, right? 250 credits at each of our comprehensives, 200 credits at Victory High School. For college and career readiness, it's actually looking at entirely different indicators than if you're meeting those 250 credits. So things like, did you take 2 AP classes and pass them with a C- or better? That would indicate to the state for this indicator that you are career ready. Did you complete a CTE pathway and also get a standards met on the SBAC test? That would indicate that you are college or career ready. Did you get A through G requirements and take an AP class? So there's 11 different ways that you can show that you're meeting these, this particular indicator of college and career readiness that the state has landed on.
Could I take that one step further? Because I think he was hitting on something that I noticed too. If you look on the college career indicator, it was interesting to see socioeconomically disadvantaged students, 51.7%. That means 1 of every 2 of those students are college and career ready, or the inverse, 1 of every 2 are not college and career ready. And so what was interesting though, if you look back, that same student group, though, seemed to do very well on the indicator of, English language arts indicator, they were right there. They were yellow, so slightly, but you look at mathematics, they've increased, they're green. So I found that group very interesting, that they're not college and career ready, yet they seem to be doing, okay or well in the other areas. Did you have thoughts on that?
Yes, and this is an area we intend to take a much deeper dive in because we don't want to see gaps in this college and career readiness. And there are so many pathways to reach this indicator. We want to look deeply into what are the ways that students are reaching this indicator and what are the ways they're not. So yes, we are identifying that 1 of 2 socioeconomically disadvantaged students is not meeting. I want to, before going into that, also identify that the prior year they had a 10% increase. So over 2 years, we've still seen a 7% increase. So we're seeing growth. However, we saw a 3% decline this year. Different group of graduating seniors, because this year this is based on the graduating seniors. But this gets at, what are some of the ways that we're ensuring that students are identified for these classes that will help them reach this college or career readiness. And so that's part of the deep dive that our team is going to be engaging in, and we'll share back with trustees as part of that LCAP update.
And another tool to do this would be really like a transcript analysis, because then you can see, okay, were students placed in the right courses, or no, it was AP, they didn't take the AP courses, but yet their prerequisites were met. What happened? Or were students like not A through G? Or were they enrolled in a pathway? So that is something that typically we would do with some site teams or some others, of really, let's go through these transcripts, let's go find out what occurred, because if they're meeting the math and English language arts pieces, then was there something that they weren't set up? Were they not enrolled in dual enrollment, which would also indicate? Were they not in ROTC? So there's a lot of ways that we can go back through a particular group and say, let's kind of do that, I don't say autopsy analysis of their transcript, to say in their high school experience, what were areas that we could have helped them or not. And that gets into that individual relationship that Hannah was referring to. Of there are certain groups that we just have to do that one-on-one, increase that piece to really make those connections. Because just given an opportunity, that they may not on their own be able to navigate that, where most students can. So that's the type of like detailed analysis that we can begin to look at, especially if we see a certain group with year-over-year concerns, that we say, what's going on, say, with our homeless students, and what's that like versus, and so we really want to look at those trends, because you could look at this, and say, wow, socioeconomic disadvantage, but we also know over a couple of years we do have some progress. So that's the type of work that really will help us kind of think through this and see, again, what's occurring. Is it achievement? Is it guidance and opportunities? Is it a combination of those? And that we can look at. And so that's where that work with not just our administrators and teachers, but also our counselors and guidance program can help us sort through some of that and look at what are targeted interventions to help students on that path.
Great, and we know, right, CASP data, like that's really important, critical data. We also know that's a test, right? And so this indicator, there are separate qualifications to meet it, and some of it might just be understanding those. A student might be doing really well, but if they haven't done those specific things or participated in, then the state might not identify them technically as college or career ready. But I really appreciate that attention to detail to look at and go, okay, what does that number actually mean? And thank you for sharing that we have seen increase, we have seen growth. That means we are starting to work on closing those gaps. I just found that very interesting data. So I appreciate, again, the opportunity to get to kind of talk with you and dialogue about that, but also the highlighting it for the attention to really look into that and do a little deeper dive to see why exactly that is. Thank you.
Yeah, and I think can help but think about just the correlation with chronic absenteeism in those groups, and noticing that with the site reports as well that we already looked at. So I'm interested to see if that's something, that as you guys have targeted this absenteeism, you anticipate some improvements there, because in at least this year, a decline in those groups with both the college career and the chronic absenteeism, small but decline. So just interested in your thoughts on that.
I think that's definitely something we anticipate over time, is that through a decrease in the number of students who are chronically absent, and we'll move into that slide here, we do know that students are able to be more engaged in academic learning, and we anticipate through that being able to see growth across measures. We do also know, specific to to college and career readiness, there also are pathways and opportunities that we need to ensure these students are aware of and signed up for. And that's different than just attendance or coming to school, is really that overt action of making sure that those opportunities are brought before all students in our district, and not students that come from certain backgrounds or have family that maybe had that same experience in school. So we really do want to make sure that we are eliminating those barriers for students and making sure they're aware of all of the ways that they may be college and career ready upon graduation, upon reaching all those credits.
I have a question about that, actually, and I think that increased awareness of what's available is great. Is this ever something, like I think about it with special education and kind of letting families know, outcomes for special education can, be below non-special education. Do counselors, in going over course selection, are there ever conversations about demographics and kind of, here are some potential obstacles, and here is some context, and here are some things to consider? Or is that not a conversation that you would have?
It's a great question. I can share an example specific to our students living in homelessness. So when we talk with our counselors about our students living in homelessness, it doesn't look this specific for every student group, but when we talk about that particular student group, we've identified collectively as a group, here's some specific actions that administrators at each comprehensive high school will take, and actually schools across the district, but will take to support youth in this student group. Let's talk about the specific actions that our counselors will take in meeting the needs of this student group. And then we'll also talk about what are the specific actions that the college and career technician could take to meeting the needs of this student group, and how do we not overlap and each repeat the same behavior, but have specific actions that are targeted for each professional to meet the needs of those particular youth. It is something that we, when training on our data analysis tool and also in other counseling meetings, have spoken with our counselors and administrators about our student group performance. And it is something specifically to these areas that we are looking at, that overall our performance is high, but we do have individual student groups, some numerically small, some numerically large, where we have gaps and we want to work to close those gaps. And we can't do that if we don't ever talk about the different makeup of students who come here to Rocklin Unified.
Or students?
Depending on the student group
On the situation.
and the appropriateness.
And an example would be, say, the FAFSA, which we know is the financial aid piece you need to do as a senior. Working with the homeless students and our foster youth individually, like not just, hey, you ought to do this, we sent you a link. Come in, let's sit down, let's walk through it, let's do it together. Those types of things ensure they get done, and the follow-up it takes. Oh, do you have the tax information, whatever. So those are things that we can do to target. Now, FAFSA completion doesn't show up on a college career indicator, but we know if you're going to go on and you're going to need financial aid. And so there are those types of pieces where, we can do that individualized, because we know a barrier to often completing something like that could be doing it, having the information. So those are some of those like targeted actions, because again, we want to do more than just, and this is what we've done with intervention placement using our data system, is we didn't just say, well, we hope they get in. We've said, we've helped you, we've generated a list for you, please make sure these students get scheduled, and then we come back and make sure that there were no barriers and check on how that went. So some of this is moving beyond just the intention, but the follow-up and the expectation that data can provide for us.
Looking at our chronic absenteeism indicator, we have made over the years, the last 5 years, significant reductions in chronic absenteeism. But in this year's dashboard, we are still in the yellow. If we have maintained, decreased in this indicator by 0.4%. If we had decreased by an additional 0.1%, we would be in the green, just for context. So all these indicators are quite nuanced, but definitely making progress. As a district, the next slide is going to show TK12 absenteeism. This indicator is only TK8. So this does not include our high schools. We just talked about 2 indicators that are only about high school. So this one's TK8 continues to show improvement in the area of chronic absenteeism. We do know that we have numerous student groups in the yellow and the orange. This is another area where we are working with administrators and site office clerks using EduClaimer, our data analysis tool, and dashboards created within that to analyze this data regularly and intervene in the moment, not waiting for another year to pass. As well, want to call out here that last year our students in homelessness were in the red. They have seen improvement, a reduction of almost 10%, and that is shown here in the orange. Attendance has been an ongoing improvement area for our district. We looked at increasing our attendance rate by 1%, so we had a baseline of 95.49%, looked to increase that by 1%. Our current attendance rate is 96.26%, so we are just about 2/10 of the way away from our goal, which you can't make this up, so unfortunately we won't reach our goal entirely, but I give us an almost thumbs up because I do think that any attendance rate over 96% is worth celebrating. And so that is, go ahead.
Hey, I know we looked at this and we have a 1% increase. I thought we started this in 24, didn't we? When did we start looking at attendance? Is it just this school year?
No, we've been looking at attendance generally for the last 5 years, these very specific goals for the last 3 years.
Okay, so then this is great data. Next time when we show this, can we show since we started to where we're at? Just because I think the trend tells a better story.
Absolutely. The decrease in chronic absenteeism, this is looking at TK-12 chronic absenteeism, looking to make a decrease of 1%. This is an indicator that's always moving throughout the school year. So we are knocking out of the park our chronic absenteeism at this time of the year, entering into flu season, but we are confident that we are going to maintain progress in this area. So right now we are over 1% higher than our goal. So we are very proud of that and have specifically focused on chronic absenteeism. And when we're working with a student who has chronic absenteeism, we're also focused on their siblings. So being intentional that we are a K-12 district. And if we have a student that's an elementary schooler with chronic absenteeism, they might have a middle school sibling or a high school sibling.
And for those people at home that don't know, chronic absenteeism translates to?
Anytime you're absent for 10% of the school year or more. So if you are the whole 180 days of the school year, it's 18 days. We're about to be at school day 100, so it's if you've been absent 10 days. It equates to about 1 to 2 days a month. So if you are absent for 2 days a month, you are going to be chronically absent and be at risk for many adverse experiences in school, including not achieving as well as other Rocklin Unified students who come to school. There you go. With that, we have Learning Communities and School Success Program competitive grant that the district was awarded in the early 24-25 school year, so early last year. We, through this grant, aimed to reduce chronic absenteeism at 3 schools, our elementary and middle school Title I schools, Antelope Creek, Rocklin Elementary, and Springview. This grant was specifically identified for these schools because of their higher rates of absenteeism, so students missing more school. In this grant, part-time liaisons were hired last year to identify students at risk for chronic absenteeism, provide personal outreach to parents to discuss attendance, and provide attendance intervention as part of the school's multi-tiered system of support process. These liaisons will be employed through the 26-27 school year. Just a few highlights for you, and there is an attached summary if you want to dive deeply into this data. But a few highlights for you from last year is that we created the job description, hired and trained 3 attendance liaisons. There are 44 individual parent-guardian meetings were held regarding attendance, impacting 64 students and 16 staff. There were 64 attendance improvement plans created. 25 parents and guardians received case management support, including multiple school-to-home contacts and referrals. We received $272,000 for the grant over 3 years, and last year we spent $43,000 of that.
Do you know, for those families that were contacted by these liaisons, is it too soon to see the improvement because this school year isn't over to compare it, or do you have some indication of whether these meetings and plans are having an impact?
It's a great question. In the attachment, slides 6 and 7 go into all the metrics we're using to track this grant. So slide 6 are all the metrics that align to what we track in the LCAP. Because we're already doing that work, why should we do more work? So we have attached it there. For slide 7, it's very specific to this grant. So each school, they're targeting to have 90% of their chronically absentee students receive an intervention. So almost 100% of students are going to get something. And then of those students they're intervening with, they want to see a 10% improvement in attendance. So what we saw in the first year, and we hired these liaisons halfway through the year. So we didn't even get a full year's worth in this data, but we saw that 31% improved their overall attendance of the 90% that or of the students that we worked with, 31%, and 8% improved their attendance by 10% or more. So we are seeing some breadcrumb nuggets of making progress, and we're going to continue to track this. On this, I want to just give a huge shout out to Julie Kassler, our Program Specialist of Integrated Systems, for being awarded this grant, and Sarah Soares, our Supervisor of Attendance, as well as the 3 attendance liaisons at the school for all their hard work. Analysis of strengths of the dashboard. Again, continued success with the highest graduation rate. All students' performance was very high on the graduation and college and career indicator. Math performance was high at 5 schools, very high at 5 schools: Sierra, Sunset Ranch, Valley View, Granite Oaks, and Rocklin High, as well as our chronic absenteeism indicator represented continued decrease. This shows our greatest areas of need. You heard me say way back at the beginning that red is what we have to be looking at, but we think that we need to address all student groups who are in the orange or the red. So you can see the areas on this slide where we have continued work for students. We also have identified, if you, and Trustee Sadoff mentioned earlier, the socioeconomically disadvantaged column. This slide gives a good example of that student group is performing in the yellow through the green on all indicators with the exception of 1. We can address that last indicator and do something about it. So this chart gives an example across metrics and across student groups for us to focus on. Next steps will be the continued implementation of LCAP actions to sustain growth and work on identified needs, update the board on progress. I'll be back on February 4th with a mid-year update for the LCAP, as well as a board study session that night as well, and then continued sharing progress on the California dashboard with educational partners through our LCAP process this winter and spring.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Hannah. Before we move on to 10.2, were there any more questions on this presentation?
No more questions, but just great job. Thank you so much for all of the hard work, and you do such a great job explaining such a complicated set of information to us, so thank you.
And so much good information in there. Okay, so we now have item 10.2, information on revised board policies and administrative regulations with Hannah Anderson. Please continue.
Hold on, let me get out of this. Good evening again. The policy in item 10.2 is the final administrative regulation included in the federal program monitoring process. It includes changes required by law specifically related to the section on conflict of interest. This item is information tonight and will be brought back for action on February 4th. And with that, I'm available for any questions or discussion.
Okay, are there any questions about this?
Not a question, but just a thought, just to share, especially just with each of you as well. You know, in reading it, I know it's very standard language. Obviously, to receive federal funds or federal pull down, there's requirements that have to be met. And so my thought, question, concern wasn't specifically related to this, but it was interesting to me. I started thinking a little bit more about there are times, or might be times, where there's grants, or there could be state money or federal money that might have some strings attached, or might have some requirements that could conflict with maybe some of the stated priorities of the board, or maybe even some of our own policies. And so I just didn't know, I don't know that it's necessary to put it in this because this is speaking specifically to the federal piece. But there might be times, again, that there might be a conflict. And so not to say that we wouldn't apply for a grant or we wouldn't receive the money, but I'd love to just see there for sure be notification to the board. So my thought was just a statement along the lines, and maybe I just say it verbally tonight and it's on the record, but I just wanted to share it with you. I kind of asked Superintendent Stock, does this need to be in writing somewhere? Do I need to ask for a policy? But really what I was looking at is something kind of along the lines of, you know, if there are any requirements to grant or funding opportunities that are in conflict with policies or stated priorities of the board, that the board be notified prior to the district applying for funds, and this would apply to state and federal programs. Just wanted to throw that out there and see how you guys feel about that, if we feel it's necessary to actually put it in writing somewhere, or if it more can just be an understood practice, that we just be notified ahead of time. I know we saw some of that at COVID times, and so I just want to be sensitive to that we're informed ahead of time.
I am in full support of that. Is there any other conversation that we should have about that?
That makes sense. Superintendent Stock, where do you think it's best to be put?
This meeting is on the record, so if it's like direction to me on the record to say that prior to applying or accepting state or federal grants, that staff, and I would have staff review, and then if there were any in conflict against board-stated priorities or our policies or regulations, that the board's informed of that, you know, prior to applying or accepting. So that's something we can, I'll take as direction from the board, and because sometimes those things can change as administrations change in Sacramento or Washington. So that can be kind of like standard operating procedure going forward. If the board's comfortable with that, or the board could put that language here and as well.
I was just going to ask, do we have like a running list of here's all the ones we're currently applying, or we're almost like a project list, right?
Yeah, a lot of the grants funding in the federal area are like they come regularly. Title I for students in poverty, Title II to support teachers and staff. So a lot of these are just in statute, and we receive funding every year, and we have. And then occasionally there's grant opportunities like the one Hannah outlined earlier on the chronic absenteeism. And so we review the assumptions because we do have to sign off on like that we'll certify that we'll meet all the requirements. So that's a standard practice that we can just, you know, be aware of, that if there's any that would conflict, that we share that and report that to the board as well.
That works for me. I don't think it needs to be in writing anywhere as long as it's clear direction. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Trustee Sadoff, for bringing that up.
Trustees, would you like this brought back as on the consent agenda next meeting, or as an action item on the open action item?
Does anybody feel like we need to vote on this, or are we good moving forward with this on consent? Everybody good?
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
All right, we will now move on to 11.1, public comment. We'll now open agenda item 11.1, and it looks like we have one public comment. And so I'm not going to read all of it because it looks like a very specific item. So when you approach the podium, please restate your name, the city you live in, and if you have children in our district, the school they attend. And that would be John Burdett. Thank you for coming.
Good evening, President Hupp, trustees and Superintendent Stock and staff. I no longer have children in the school district, but 20 years ago, my oldest son, John, went to Breen Elementary School when I lived in Stanford Ranch. I currently live in Newcastle, California, so I consider myself local, and my parents live right over near the police station on South Grove. I'm the vice president of Excite Energy, and I head their program development. And we're a pre-qualified energy services company with the state of California, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak tonight. I understand the district previously implemented a solar project at one site many years ago, and that candidly, it was not a positive experience for the district. I've been told the system was expensive, it did not deliver the value that was expected, and if that were my experience, I would be cautious as well. I want to acknowledge the staff concern directly, and also point out that the solar and energy market of today is fundamentally different than it was when the system was constructed for the Rocklin Unified School District. System costs have declined dramatically, financial structures have evolved, performance guarantees are now standard, and school districts across California are using modern delivery models that transfer performance risk away from the district while generating significant measurable savings for all of the community members in the district. Importantly, what I'm proposing tonight is not a commitment to do anything. What we're requesting is permission to perform a no-cost analysis, a no-obligation feasibility study for the district. At no expense to the Rocklin Unified School District, our program developers would analyze current utilities.
John, sorry, thank you. We do have a time limit, and we very much appreciate you. I'm sorry, I didn't state the time limit before you began. Yes, we very much, it was 2. We very much appreciate you coming. The board is not permitted to deliberate or take action on non-agenda items during a meeting, but I can refer this to Superintendent Stock for further information.
Yeah, and our Senior Director of Facilities will connect with you to get your contact information and can follow up. Thank
you. Okay. On to 12.1. Our board bylaws require 2 trustees to place an item on the agenda. Trustees, do you have any items to discuss for consideration on the pending agenda? All right. In that case, the meeting is now adjourned.